The analogy that I try to give my team is this. We're kind of like farmers. So farmers make money twice a year. There's usually 2 harvests and 2 planting seasons when you're farming. What I'm saying is theoretically there is typically some ebbs and flows to it, right? And just based off the fact that there are some months that have more capacity than other months, those are your harvest months, right? You can't have a bad October and a bad August and have a good year. It just can't happen.
The following program features a bunch of doofuses talking about the automotive aftermarket. The stuff we or our guests may say do not necessarily reflect the beliefs of our peers, our sponsors, or any other associations we may have. There may be some spicy language in this show, so if you get your feelings hurt easily, you should probably just move along. So without further ado, it's time for Confessions of a Shop Owner with your host, Mike Allen.
Just doing health insurance elections for next year today and getting all the forms gathered up and scanned in and everything. What a pain in the ass. But it's one of those things, right? We offered 3 plans to choose from this year. We've done 2 in the past. So we did a low deductible, a high deductible is what we've always done. We did one in the middle this year, and it turns out almost everyone has picked the one in the middle. So good.
You go through a private agent on that?
Yeah. We quoted. We've been with BCBS for a while, but we're switching to Aetna because BCBS was going up a pretty significant amount, and all the major hospital groups in our area except Aetna. So,
we flip flop back and forth between BCBS and
United. Yeah,
and I'm back to BCBS now.
It's just that game you got to play every year, right? It's that time of year. What do you do as far as how much do you cover for your team?
Well,
or not?
No. We do. I cover 100% is the answer.
Yeah.
That was a mistake that was made in Payroll a while back because we set it up. We never set it up for the deductions.
So you unintentionally decided to cover 100%.
Yeah. What happened is when my wife set up the deductions, she did a deduction, and then it also went back to them as a secondary payment some kind of way. So like it took $50 out. So like I would see it come out. So I was like, okay, cool. But some kind of way it also sent $50 back. And the way that it did it, I just always assumed that was part of like the payroll fees kind of deal. It's like the way that it broke out in the withdrawals.
How long did it take before you caught it?
Over a year.
And then you're like, well, I guess everybody gets free health insurance at that point.
Yeah. Because I caught it. Here's how I caught it. I caught that, and I was doing payroll one day myself, and I was like, okay, this is weird. So I fixed one of the guys, right? And he came to me like a week or 2 later, and he was like, hey man, it's kind of strange, but I don't get that bonus anymore. I'm like, what bonus are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, that $50 bonus that I used to get every week. And I was like, so then I started digging into it, and I found out what it was, and I was like, oh God.
Give your wife a hard time about that?
No.
It's a good way to have to go hire a new office manager because you gave your wife a hard time at the wrong point.
Yeah.
So,
well,
you don't like the way I did it? Then find somebody else to do it.
I've made that offer before.
This is the Christmas episode. This is not the inciting divorce episode.
She's a big
so it is. It's early December when we're recording this. This is going to come out right before Christmas. I think this is scheduled to be released on the 23rd. Hence the cheery attire and my little baby Christmas tree, which you can't really see. I need to get the lighting better. But I thought it would be a good time to talk about goal setting for 2026 because I think a lot of shop owners just kind of live month to month, week to week, day to day, and So goal setting and budget setting and planning is an important thing. And frankly, you don't need to be doing it on December 9th. You probably need to be doing it in late October, early November, I would think. But for those that have never had a coach, it might be good to just sit down and go through that process with you so that they can see what maybe they should be looking for. This seem good?
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So I'll give you my philosophy that I've kind of warmed up to over the last 2 years, and I will give.
Look, here's the deal. The automotive repair business is changing fast. New technology, new customer expectations, and new ways to run a shop. Tectonic 2026 is where you'll see what's next. It's a conference built for the whole industry with sessions to guide owners, advisors, and techs with a clear view of the road ahead. It's happening April 9 through 11 in Houston, Texas, 2026. Presented by TechMetric, it welcomes the entire industry. Tap the link in the show notes to register and grab early bird pricing while you still can.
Look, here's the deal. I like to think that I'm pretty good at running an auto repair shop. It's what I've done for 20 plus years, but I'm not good at managing a marketing budget and all the different facets of a truly well-rounded marketing plan. There's mail, there's local advertising, there's website, there's Google AdWords, there's all the different things that go into that, and it's just not what I'm good at. So what I've chosen to do is to buy myself the time to focus on what I am good at while having someone else execute on all of those things at a way higher level than anything I could ever do. That's what turnkey auto marketing does for me. So if you feel like you could use some of that same magic, I'm going to recommend that you go to turnkeyautomarketing.com, get a free consultation, tell them that I sent you, tell them that Confessions of a Shop Owner sent you. You won't be disappointed.
I'll give the people at Pro Service here at Elite the majority of the credit for the process that we're getting ready to go over. You've been a longtime Pro Service member. I'm sure that you're going to be familiar with the process and the spreadsheet that I'm going to be referring to. We're going to do it the analog way, just to kind of cover it. But 2 years ago when I joined Pro Service, this time of year, every year, we have a goal setting meeting, usually as a group. And there was
Mine's
a
in 2
spreadsheet that
days.
was shared with me.
I'm booked on that in 2 days. I've got mine in 2 days.
So they share a spreadsheet, and it's a really awesome spreadsheet, and it kind of changed my thought process of how I set goals for the following year or for the next year. Because I used to just take a look at it and go, okay, what did I make last year? How do I put a percentage on top of it? And which is fine. The problem with it is it's really difficult to tell if that's a realistic goal or not, right? Because it's not really grounded in anything other than hope. I hope I'm going to do 30% more. And obviously we can back into all of those numbers and figure out what we would have to do 30% more. But it's still, the original number was grounded in hope and not anything that was mathematically firm. So to summarize the spreadsheet that was shared with us, the way that I started doing it based off of that sheet is we take a look at technician available hours and what we feel like we're going to be able to accomplish with each one of those technicians inside of their available hours. So independently, how productive is each member of our tech staff, because different roles produce different amounts of productivity, right? If you have a shop foreman that's doing mainly diag, the likelihood that he's going to be 100% productive is less than 100%.
Yep.
If you have a GS that's doing mainly oil changes and state inspections, the likelihood that he's going to be 100% productive is less than 100%. So,
yep.
And then things that I never factored in before when I started off doing my early math was, time off, days of the month, because again, what I used to do, and I'm sure most of us do it. You said, I want to do $1 million a year. $1 million a year divided by 12, and you back into that, and that's your monthly goal is that. But February has 19 days. July has 23 days.
23, yeah, makes a big difference.
And so there's a lot more available inventory there to be able to sell off of in those months than there is in other months. So that's the process that we're going to work through today. We're not going to go month to month on that. We won't go quite that in depth, but what I would like to do is just take a look at your available hours for what we're going to have for next year, and then kind of compare that to what we've done this year a little bit to see if there's some availability to scale up and grow. And then based off the revelation that you shared in our last episode, we also need to factor in that this is kind of a satellite location for you, and you do have the ability to share technician capacity at one of your other locations. And so we need to kind of factor in what that means. So your ceiling is not based 100% off of your staff at that location from a technician standpoint. Yeah. It's going to be more based on what you feel like, how much throughput you can push through the front counter and how much inspections you can push through the back. More so than it is going to be straight one-to-one productivity, because you're outsourcing some of that productivity to another store.
Good. Makes sense.
Okay. All right. So let's talk staffing really quick.
So currently, right? I've got 2 technicians and a GS.
Okay.
And 2 advisors. So one advisor is the selling advisor. One is kind of helps with the rack attack process and overflow phones and parts and estimating and that kind of stuff.
Okay. So from the 2 technician standpoint, are we classifying them as close to A-Tech or A-Tech quality?
I'd say an A-Tech and a B-Tech. So A-Tech is good for 50 to 60 hours a week pretty consistently, plugging right along, sometimes higher than that, very rarely under 40. The B-Tech is a consistent 40 hours a week guy, 35 to 45. The GS is just doing oil changes, tires, and state inspections, and helping with rack attack and the DVIs. So he's probably doing 15 hours a week. Maybe call it 10 to be safe. With the overflow of the capacity, the technical capacity from the other shop that's next door, right, that's a mile down the road, we could almost say that there's an extra technician or a half of an extra tech. So I would say it's reasonable to expect that secondary location to add 30 hours a week to their capacity.
Okay.
Elite Worldwide's Ignite Conference is coming to Scottsdale, Arizona, January 30th and 31st in 2026. It's 2 days of real training for independent shop owners who want to grow their business, lead their teams better, and get their time back. Here's the deal. There's no fluff. There's no theory. It's just proven strategies taught to you by other shop owners. I went last year and it was awesome. One of the guys that I talked to said that he learned more in 2 days than he had in the previous 2 years of going to training events. If you're ready to improve 2026, make it the best year ever, go to eliteworldwide.com/ignite and use code CONFESSIONS for $100 off your general admission ticket. That's eliteworldwide.com/ignite, code CONFESSIONS, $100 off. Do it now. Registration closes in December.
All right. So we've got 145 hours a week of potential.
I think that's legit.
All right. And those 3 technicians, how many hours are they working? They're working 40 hours a week, right?
Yeah, it's they're 8 to 5 Monday through Friday with an hour lunch, so 40 hours.
All right. So we have 120 available hours. And then
do we want to add some available hours to consider the production from the other facility, like half a tech? Make it 140 available hours?
Not at the moment, because at 120, you have 120 available hours. We're averaging about 105 hours a week in store.
Yep.
And so obviously that gives us a touch of room for improvement there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Most of that loss is the GS not being highly productive.
Sure. And so I guess the question there is, is there room for is the B-Tech capped by his experience at the moment, or is he capped by the level of distribution of work that we have to be able to give him?
I think Yeah, I think it's just experience at this point. He's like 4 years into his career,
Okay.
and
40 hours
yeah,
a week is great. I'm not knocking that
yeah,
in any way.
yeah. He does good quality work. He doesn't have comebacks.
Sure.
Sometimes he gets hung up and loses on more advanced jobs, and he crushes it on the easier jobs, and it kind of averages out.
Okay. And so the GS, what level of work do we feel? I mean, is he capped out at tires? Is he, what is his, where is he at in the stage of his career? Is he a career lube
Uh,
tech?
yeah, I mean, he's such a good dude. He's very young. Um, Oil changes, tires, and state inspections are probably the cap right now, unless he gets some mentorship from the A Tech, and the environment at that shop makes it kind of hard because they're busy, and so it's hard
Right.
for him to slow down and teach to the degree that would be necessary, I think.
Okay.
Like
So,
if he comes to me in 26 and is like, hey boss, I want to learn more, I want to do more than what I'm doing, I'll probably have to transfer him to a different store so that there's a pace where he can go be side by side with another technician and kind of be hands and feet for that guy as he learns. I just don't think that the environment at this shop is appropriate for that.
so next question there, and this is just, I'm just asking to spitball ideas here, because obviously your biggest room for improvement is getting the GS to 15 or 20,
Mm-hmm.
because that's doable, I think.
He
It's
could
just a
learn
matter of,
fluid services, and he could probably learn brakes if we push him through some training modules and kind of hold his hand and let him do some tell show do type stuff.
yeah. So things, some of the easier stuff like that. And again, everything comes with risk, right? Even the fluid services comes with risk.
Yeah.
Um, so
And I could send him to hunter class and let him start doing the alignments, that kind of stuff.
so the only thing that I want to make sure here is that, again, the goal is not to transfer hours from one to the other, right?
Just to add
So
hours.
yeah, we're trying to add hours. So just
Yeah.
something else to think about there. I don't want to just give him the alignments just because so he can do the alignments, because that might take 5 hours away from your B Tech, right?
Well,
Um,
and then you fall into that trope of, the low skill techs get all the easy work and the high skill techs get nothing but hard work. And that makes everybody angry. And yeah, that's not
that's
the goal.
so the question is, do we feel like if his skill level, let's just for a second, let's put him on a shelf and let's act like he was an A Tech. If you had another A Tech there, do you have capacity to be able to give 25 hours a week without taking away from the other two?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And what would happen then is we just wouldn't be shipping work down the street to the other shop. We would just be doing it
Sure.
all in house.
Right. And then if you did that, do you have capacity to be able to increase car count on top of it? Because you kind of said
Yes.
you have an endless amount of car count at that location to
Yeah.
some extent.
The only time that it gets a little bit slow is when the students aren't in town.
Yep.
And that's even only for a couple of weeks in the summer, because then summer school's in and there's students in town. So um, car count is not really a struggle there. We don't hardly do any marketing there. So if we wanted to add cars, we could turn on some direct mail and probably add some cars pretty quickly.
Okay. So I'm just looking at that and saying, we have some room for capacity improvement internally without without outsourcing, and then we also have the ability to continue to outsource up to that 30 hours, even if we increased internal capacity at the store. So your growth option really is, how do we get an extra 5 to 10 hours a week out of the GS? Um, what lower level services would we be able to train him to do to be able to increase his capacity? To be able to add to that, that gets us to 115 hours a week of internal capacity and still 30 hours. Your effective labor rate at that store this year is what?
I don't want to misspeak. Hold please. I'm going to guess it's like $165. No, $134.20. Ugh. Would tell you that has come up significantly in the last 90 days.
I was going to say, give me a 90-day or 6 month run rate on that.
It's 148 in the last 90 days, so it's moving in the right direction.
Okay.
I think 165 is a reasonable target for given my free diag and everything else.
All right. So if we were able to average, what is, can you take a look real quick, your year-to-date labor percentage? In other words, what percentage of your
Parts
total
to labor
sales is in
ratio?
labor?
You want parts to labor ratio?
Yeah, but give it to me in a percentage.
All right.
I failed fractions, Mike.
Year to date, that store is at 1.3 million, and it's done 650 in labor, so that's 50%.
50%, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. That makes our math super easy. So just to explain what we're going to do, like I said, I know you're familiar with the process. We're going to figure out what our store capacity is, like realistically, individual by individual, what we're capable of doing. We've got 55-hour A-Tech. We've got a 40-hour B-Tech. Currently, we have a 10-hour GS. So that gives us the 105 hours a week that we have of internal capacity.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to multiply that times our current effective labor rate. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take our parts to labor ratio, which is what you just did for us there. To get that parts to labor ratio, we're going to figure out what our total sales is and what our total labor sales is, and we're going to divide total labor sales by the total sales.
Yep.
We had a great example here. If you guys don't have if you want to make it easy math, I will tell you, typically speaking, we see somewhere around 55% of total sales is in labor. That's on average. If you want to make the math easy, do 50-50 and you'll be damn close. And so in this scenario, we were 50-50. So what we know there is that for every dollar of labor that we sell, we're generating a dollar of parts. So that's going to make it really easy for us to come up with what our sales totals are going to be. And we're going to...
If I get my effective labor rate up some, that's going to skew that number more towards that 55% too, right?
It will. And just to put that in perspective for the listeners, the reason that Mike's at 50-50, and I'm not knocking your strategy here, but the labor sales that we're missing off of diag and testing is probably that 5%. If we had charged labor on all that, we probably would be 5% heavy on labor. And that is pretty typical, because there are shops out there that don't have that as a strategy necessarily. It's just what they do. And from on the coaching side of things, when we do take on clients and they're undercharging for testing, we typically see that parts to labor ratio a lot closer to 1-to-1. Usually after the first year, and we put some sort of pricing strategy together for no part tickets, by the end of that first year, we're looking somewhere around 55% heavy on the labor. It's kind of what we see. But for the mass,
105, I just did 105 hours of capacity times $145 of labor times 2 for the parts to labor ratio gives me $30,450 a week in revenue as a target. Times 52 is 1.58 million.
Yep. So I want you to do it times 50.
Because of vacations. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're going to have vacations. You're going to have holidays. You're going to have missed days of work, all that good stuff. You're going to have slow periods.
I mean, if you get 6 paid holidays and everybody gets 2 weeks of vacation, then it should be times 49.
I would agree with that. I do it by 48, just because I know that I have some seasonality that I have yet been able to overcome historically. And I have some people that have 3 weeks of vacation. Yeah. And I know we're going to have weeks like we're having right now in December where we have weather and we've been shut down for a day or two.
Stupid weather.
Yeah.
No, I think that's probably wise. Same, like we have, spring break is dead for us, at the store. So I think 48 is a reasonable number if you consider vacation time, paid holiday time, and then, hurricane days.
And if you were doing it based off the months of the year, like, the available days in each month, like the spreadsheet does, mm-hmm. and I would challenge everybody to take a look at doing that. So if we broke that, let's just do this. Let's just break that down, so just so we can show the listeners and the viewers that 30,000. Let's just call it 30,500, and we're going to divide it by 5.
$6,100 a day.
Okay, so that's $6,100 a day of our revenue target. Mm-hmm. Now let's take a month that has 23 days.
August.
Yep. Okay. And so we multiply that times 23.
We need 140,000.
So you have capacity for 140,000 that month. Now let's go to February, where we have 19 days, or November and December, when we have time off for holidays, we probably have 19 to 20 days, right?
Yeah, so that's 116,000. So
yeah, so your capacity can't be the same from month to month because you have a different number of days in each month. So if you can either do the math and you can do it that way and then figure out, well, on average, if I do it by 48 weeks, it usually works out pretty well, or I do it by 49 weeks and it works out pretty well. A lot of that's going to be determined by how much vacation time you give your team, what your normal days off are, and how many days of the month you're working. Because some people are working 6 days a week, some people are working 7 days a week, some people are working 4 days a week. Your capacity for revenue is generated by how many available hours you have to be able to sell. And that's really what the crux of this whole exercise is how many available hours do you have to sell, in a given time period. And then what is your average cost of that labor that you're selling out? Because the only two ways that you can grow is to increase your labor capacity or increase the cost of that labor.
Or increase how much time you're open.
That's labor capacity.
Yeah, you're right. Fair.
You know what I mean? So I can increase labor capacity by adding staff. I can increase labor capacity by adding hours that they're open, that they're there. I can increase labor capacity. That's really the only two ways.
Well, there are more efficient employees and less efficient employees.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, by adding skill, that's exactly right. I can change the skill set there. I can go from a GS that does 10 to an ATech that can do 50, and now my labor capacity is higher. So I mean, those are really the three ways. I will tell you that my goal setting became significantly more accurate when I started looking at it that way and thinking about it and planning about it that way. And also it starts making you a lot more actionable about the things that are going to make money.
Hey, it's me, Mike's kid. Want to tell us your wild shop stories? Or maybe you just think my dad's totally wrong. Call us at 704-CONFESS and leave a message. You can tell us we're awesome, or you can tell us we're idiots. We're cool either way. That's 704-CONFESS. Just don't make it too weird.
And change those numbers for good.
Like if I just did it times 48 or 49 weeks and then divided that by 12 and said, we need 122,000 every month, it's going to make those short months really hard, and it's going to make you wonder, there's the human potential to rest on your laurels with 4 days left in the month when you get there in August, and you really should be pushing for 145 or
That's
whatever
exactly
it is.
Right. Yeah, you're gonna feel you're gonna fall short in the months that you should. So I tell my team, the analogy that I try to give my team is this: we're kind of like farmers, right? So farmers make money twice a year. Right. There's usually 2 harvests and 2 planting seasons when you're farming. And I'm not saying in our industry that you shouldn't be busy all year long. What I'm saying is theoretically there is typically some ebbs and flows to it, right? And just based off the fact that there are some months that have more capacity than other months, those are your harvest months, right? You can't have a bad October and a bad August and have a good year. It just can't happen, right? We can outrun a bad February because we've probably planned on having a bad February because it is what it is. But the months that are supposed to be good, so if you look at it that way, if you go, well, we fell short, if you do the $120,000 a month across all months, right? And you fall short in February, you automatically justify it because it's February. Mm-hmm. And then you celebrate the $130,000 a month in October because it's better than your 120 target, but you really should have been 145, right? Yeah. Which means you had a bad harvest season.
So you need to set your goals based on capacity and then break it down month to month based on number of operating days.
Yes.
And your goal setting should be adjusted to recognize and consider vacation, paid holidays, sick days, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because that life is going to happen, right? And then the other thing, the other thing to think about inside of that is again, if we've identified that we have higher capacity and higher opportunity in different times of the year. So strategically speaking, it's a good thing to start having a conversation with the team now about those months. And I'm not telling you to black them out necessarily, but they're in this boat with you, right? Your service advisors, your technicians, they're in a production-based industry as well, meaning that their pay is based off how much they produce and how well the store does in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. And therefore, if they're taking time off in October and August, that's lowering the capacity of the store in the times of the month when capacity is there, right?
So I found that as owners, we focus on month to month or year to date, right? Compared to previous year. I think team members focus on pay period to pay period.
Yep.
And so, like for us, we pay weekly. So they focus Monday to Friday, right? And they don't think about the month. So if the end of the month is on Wednesday, getting them to have the same sense of urgency to get stuff done on Wednesday, their sense of urgency is to get it done by Friday. And so I agree that I should communicate with them about our goal setting process and how we're laying it out and how it varies from week to week. Merry Christmas. But getting them to have the same sense of urgency can be a challenge for me.
So you're a college basketball guy. I know our listeners, we've already talked about they're not big sports people, so we won't bore them to death with everything. But I'm going to give you a good analogy. I don't agree with you 100%. I agree with what you're saying. I disagree that that's bad coaching.
That's certainly fair.
Okay. And so in basketball, the whole game matters, right? But if you ever listen to LeBron James talk about the last 2 minutes of each quarter is how you end quarters is how it matters, what matters the most, right?
Well, I think in college ball, they talk about the 4-minute segments too, right?
That's
just
exactly
TV
right.
timeout every 4 minutes. And
Yeah. And so it's how you finish, right? It's how you finish those quarters because the last 2 minutes are where, there's runs that happen. And if you're on the wrong side of that run, then you've killed the momentum going into the next quarter or the next half. And, the spread changes, right? And so those players don't know that inherently. If you're 7 years old, you think either every play matters or only the end of the game matters, one of the two, right? The only time the score matters. So the younger you are, you're only looking at the scoreboard at the end of the game, and that's when it mattered. Oh, we lost by 20, we won by 2, whatever, right? Through coaching, as you grow through and you progress, you start understanding the different times that matter and when to ramp up your energy and when to come back, when your focus needs to be 100%. So, I think that just comes back down to, we're looking at it saying, well, that's pay plan driven. And there's an element of that, right? The natural instinct of it is, the end of my game is Friday. I get paid on Friday. It's really all I care about. But I think at that point in time, we're not setting the right focus for them, which is where I think the month-to-month goals really help, right? So we do the month-to-month goals so they understand that our goal for February may not be the 120. It may only be 98 because that's all we have capacity for, right? And we're having that conversation of, on a consistent basis of what is our goal what is our goal to average right now, goal to actual, each week. Are we on pace for our 98? All right. On the technician side.
Have you found, so we did the math and it came out to 6,100 a day. And so let's say that, we've got a goal of 30,500 a week. Trying to get the mindset to 6,100 a day versus 4,500, 1,500, 2,700, 17,000.
Yeah. So, and I know exactly where you're going with this. And So at Elite, we have our 3-day course that we teach, which is Eagles. And it's an owner manager boot camp. And one of the things we've been changing and updating a lot of the content over the last year. One of the things that we just updated is I took a client slide of the TechMetric report. So if you go to jobs posted on the shop dashboard in TechMetric and you look at it over the course of a year, it shows you this big, beautiful graph, right?
Yep.
And I did it by day. I'm sorry, not by day, but I did it by week. And you would have, it literally looked like shark's teeth, right? It looked like this right here. So you would have a big week, and then right after the big week, you would have a slow week, big week, slow week, right? So when I was working with that client, what I realized was on the big weeks, we're ramping up. The service advisor is saying yes, 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 yes. All of a sudden, the parking lot's full. The technicians are busy. The tech hook is full. And then they start saying, but that feeling comes before the work is out the door, right? Before you get paid for it. So once they start feeling busy, they start saying no, 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 as the closer they get to the top of that week, right? Mm-hmm. And then the next week, there's no work in the funnel because we've sold it out. So when I really started paying attention to that, and I went back and took a look at my store after I was looking at theirs, and I was like, damn, mine's almost identical, right? So I started paying attention to it in both of their stores, and what I realized is that throughput of car count and sales matters more. And actually, I'll give Harrison Rusk a lot of credit for this. So he has when we were talking at one of the meetings, I heard him telling somebody that they have a daily sales goal that's not based on the daily goal, like the cashed out goal, right? Mm-hmm. So jobs created. And so I started really looking at that between car count and approved sales for each day. And at my store, and our throughput time is slower because of parts acquisition and some other things. Our approval times take longer, all that. Some stores this might be faster. But if I have a goal of 60 cars a week, then I need to create about 100 invoices a week, because 40 of them are going to roll into next week. Between the approval time, between the parts acquisition, and between the job getting completed, it's going to roll into the next pay period. All right. And then I need to be able to generate that same average amount of sales. So if I take let's just say my target is $650 for an ARO, and I know that I have a target of 60 cars a week. That gives me a $40,000 a week sales goal, right? So I want to close out $40,000 a week was my target for this year. What that meant was I needed to have $65,000 in approvals each week. So I set an approval sales goal. So we took that's 65,000 and divided it by 5. And I said, I need $13,000 a day of approvals. And then what we looked at was, I was like, okay, well, if today was 10,000, then tomorrow's goal is not 13. It's 16,000.
Yeah. When does that reset?
And then it resets. It resets every day.
I think I have that in my head because we use Slack to communicate in the company, and we post sales as they happen amongst the advisors, kind of as like a hype thing, attaboys and that kind of thing. I like to see $3,000 of approvals per day per technician in the company. And so, but that's in my mind, that's not publicly communicated to the team. So maybe that should be set out there so they know. Because if I hire 3 guys, the numbers from before aren't good enough anymore. And if 3 guys leave, then the numbers that I needed before are probably not attainable, not easily. So that number moves a little bit. So it's kind of tied to the number of technicians we have.
Yep.
And I think I'm getting like a head cold or something, man. I'm coughing and sneezing.
'Tis the season, Mike.
Ho, ho, ho.
So, I think that there's, and I think I find this, I've had struggle with this problem for years too, which is how do we communicate the things that make sense to us to other people, right? And I think every shop owner has a different way that the math makes sense to us. You're looking at it as $3,000 of approvals per technician. The math's probably the same, right? It doesn't matter. But the question is does that analogy, does that comparison make sense to the team? And if it doesn't, how do we pick a number that makes sense to them? It's like technicians, I can't talk $3,000 of approval to technicians. They don't know anything about that. Hours, right? And so if I'm breaking down my discovery goal for technicians, I'm not having a discovery goal based off hours. I'm having a discovery based off of how many tech finds, so quantity of tech finds, and then their version of estimated hours, right? Because they're smart enough to look at it and go, control arms is probably 3.5 hours per side. Rear shocks is probably 1 hour. You know what I mean? They can add those things up and get an idea about where they're at with their tech finds, right?
I mean, if you back into that math, $3,000 per tech is essentially 10 hours a day per tech,
yep.
Right? Because if we talk about what my effective labor rate is and my parts to labor ratio, it comes out to 290. So, it's 10.1 hours a day. So I think that maths.
Yeah, I mean, the math is good. The question is, though, how do we transfer that information down to the team on a daily basis? Because to combat what you're talking about the week-to-week problem, they shouldn't be looking at it week-to-week. They need to be looking at it every day. Needs to be a win or a loss. And a loss doesn't mean you can lose a play and still win the game, right? It's fine. It's just, okay, what do we have to do next to be able to overcome that? And, they have to know that if there's an ebb down, somewhere there's got to be a flow up to overcome it, right?
Correct. Yeah, makes sense. Cool. So, do you think we have time to talk about setting a marketing budget and a plan?
Yes.
Okay.
So, marketing budget's going to be one of those things that obviously is going to vary drastically between location to location. We're going to talk in some generalities for a little bit here. Typically speaking, if you're an established shop and you're close to meeting capacity already with what your team is, your maintenance budget's going to be somewhere around 3% of your total expected revenue. Not what last year's revenue was. If we're going to grow, we're going to grow again. We've already determined that the only way to grow is to increase capacity of hours or to increase the cost of those hours. One of the ways that we increase capacity of hours is through car count, right? Maybe we can get more cars for the GS to do, right? So we get car count through our marketing budget. So if we're somewhere between a 5 to 15% growth rate, just to try to stay above inflation, try to stay above the market area, I consider that somewhere in that 3 to 5% of marketing budget of what that target of 15% growth, 10 to 15% growth would be. If we're in growth mode, I'm looking somewhere between 5 to 10% of target, depending on A, the aggressiveness of the growth, and B, some of the logistics locations of where you're at. Some places are always going to have a higher marketing budget just based off of their location, right? We talked about this in the property example there. Mm-hmm. If you have poor egress, it is what it is. If your location sucks, I got to scream and yell at people a lot more to get them to come to where we're at. If you're in a great location and people are already driving by you all the time, like the one you're in, that marketing budget's a little bit lower, but you're probably paying for it in your rent.
Rent, yeah.
And so if you're still paying for it, you're just paying for it in proximity versus ad spend.
Yeah, sure.
So as far as marketing budget goes, I like to sit down and say, let's take the total number first, and let's think about what our strategy is going to be for marketing. As far as what are we planning on doing with that money? Because there's different options that we have for marketing. There's options. They're not one size fits all. There are areas that Google ads might work better than direct mail, and there are places that direct mail might work better. I would say by and large, from what I have seen in other shops and what I have experienced on my own, the two places you should probably put most of your money is Google ads and direct mail. But I know places that spend almost all of it in community events, and that works for them.
So if it's if one of our listeners is a newer shop or a smaller shop, maybe they're just adding their first employee or something to that effect, they've got maybe a tighter budget. Is it safe to say that they should start with Google AdWords just because of the cost barrier versus direct mail?
So I think that yes and no. I think that depends on how much initial capital they have. My personal opinion is that there's no real way to answer that question and be accurate. So I don't want to give advice on that. I'll give you my experience with it, and I'll tell you why I say that. Because the effectiveness of marketing depends on so much more than the marketing itself. All right, and usually new shop owners, and I was a big, I failed at this when I started, which was marketing doesn't make revenue. Marketing makes opportunity. And so regardless, and it also depends on who your partner is and the quality and skill of the marketing that's being done. So if you do AdWords, and whether you pay a friend down the street and he does a bad job of it, you may spend $500, which is not a lot of money, but you may get nothing for it. And therefore there was no value in it. Or you may spend $500 and get a whole bunch of phone calls, and for whatever reason, you're not good at converting those phone calls into,
Yeah, if your service advisor sucks or if you suck on the phone, then no amount of marketing will help.
Yeah. And so I knew, my transition into the industry, was heavy in sales and marketing, right? I knew nothing about cars. I knew absolutely nothing about fixing cars, and I knew nothing about monetizing it from an experience standpoint. So I knew how to sell widgets on a website. All right. And based off my experience of selling widgets, if I need widgets, I need more customers. And if I need more customers, if I ramp up marketing and that marketing is more efficient and I drive more eyeballs to my website, I drive more phone calls, I sell more widgets every single time, right? So when I started, I literally did direct mail to every person in my entire county. I did 30,000 mailers. And so, we're a small town, right? So, 30,000 mailers is a lot of mailers, but it's not unheard of.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm going to ramp this thing up really quick. So very quickly, I was doing 110 cars a week. All right. And which sounds great. Sounds wonderful. I signed up with Elite in 2017, and I went to my very first Eagles class, and there was actually they were a pro service member at the time. You remember Borg in Arizona? Yeah. They had their general manager there, and me and him had hit it off a little bit and sat beside each other in class. And we went out to dinner that night. We were comparing shop size and talking and the things that you do at these events. And he was, so he's asking me the general questions, right? Hey, what's your car count?
Yeah.
And I was like 115 cars a week. He's like, good God. He goes, you guys got to be doing what, like 2, 3, 4 million a year?
What's your ARO? $170.
It was $165. That's what it was. That's exactly what it was. So, and I just didn't know. You hear the term all the time. You don't know what you don't know, and that was a point in the time that I didn't know. And so I thought my marketing was not working, right? But it was working because obviously we were driving car count. My people were telling me it was driving the wrong customers in the wrong cars. We just didn't have an experience that was good enough to buy, right? We weren't doing good inspections. We weren't doing a good sales process. So that's why I say, marketing is about consistency on the front end and understanding what that marketing is supposed to do for you. And by and large, most of what it's supposed to do is just make the phone ring and give you opportunities. And if you can create enough opportunities and convert off those opportunities to get them in the store, then it's what does that experience look like to be able to convert off of it once it's in the store? Because if I convert on the phone to get them in for a $19.99 oil change, and we can't convert them from a 1999 oil change to something else, then the whole the marketing worked because it got me a car, but there was no real opportunity to sell. So I think we have to take a look at, again, we talked about improving capacity here. Let's just say that your B Tech was at 25, 30 hours, right? But he had the skill set to be able to get to that 40 to 45 that he's at right now, right? And we were looking at it and saying, well, car count is the driving factor. He just needs more at bats. He needs more opportunities. So then I would be looking at, well, how many opportunities do I need to drive for him? And that's where I would be looking at my marketing budget and saying, okay, we need to grow car count and opportunity. So I would be in growth mode of car count. All right. I'd be in that 5 to 8 to 10% mode there. And then we need to understand the different aspects of the funnel to understand the different types of customers we're going to get and the different experience that needs to happen with that. So Google, I'm catching somebody that's searching for a problem that they have right now. Right. Yeah. So it's less.
They're actively looking.
But yeah. I got brakes. I'm searching brakes near me. I'm calling you about brakes. Right. And then where direct mail is, we're going to give them some sort of a common use offer that's a loss leader. And it is what it is, right?
You know, anyone who's doing high-level direct mail that is not doing a loss leader?
It's a waste of money.
Is there a point in doing value-based direct mail? I know that our friend Dave Becker used to do that.
And I did it. I did it for a while because I was told that, you need to be more brand oriented, and the 1999 oil change offer is off brand for what you want to be as a high quality auto repair shop, right? And I think a lot of us maybe heard that. What I will tell you is when I did those branding mailers, and I didn't just do one or two of them, I did hundreds of thousands of them over.
Well, that's the thing with direct mail, right? It's not a one shot thing. You've got to stay in it for an extended period of time. You're committing a large investment. If you quit, it's not going to work.
Yeah. And so you have to commit to a strategy, and you have to understand the whole aspect of what that strategy is. So what I will tell you is that in my experience, branding for direct mail itself for EDDMs did not work because there was no offer, right? Now, if you want to do a branding message to your current customer base, completely different story. Right? If you want to do a newsletter, if you want to send out a postcard to your current existing customer base, branding messages there are great because they already know the brand and they're interested in what you have to say. But if you're trying to generate new customers, that's it. I did not have any experience with that, and I do not personally know anybody that can prove to me that they had a lot of success with that either.
Well, I think there'll be people who will speak up and say that it does work, but they're specialty shops.
Sure.
Or they're very small, and it doesn't take an enormous volume of cars to fill the bays, right? But if you're the only Sprinter shop in 100 miles, you don't need to be doing loss leaders. You just need to say, "Hey, I work on Sprinters."
Yeah, that's right. I would agree with that as well. And so, or there are people that already have such a huge brand awareness already through other things that they do. We know lots of people in the industry, Lola and Eric.
Yeah.
They've done such a great job of creating a brand that loss leader advertising is not something that is a necessity for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make it better or worse. It doesn't make me bad because I run loss leader advertising. It just means I put my effort in different places.
That makes you evil.
Results, the results can be the same, and I can provide a high level experience even off of a loss leader, but it takes a lot of intentionality. And if you don't go into it the same way that if you do a community event and think that just because you do a wine and women event that you're going to double your car count next week, you have to do intentionality all year long of community events.
Yeah. And I think it needs to be said also that if you don't have a good sales process and a good customer experience in line, then any loss leader is wasted money.
Yeah, 100%.
Like you said, 110 cars a week, but $175 ARO or whatever it was is just You weren't creating a buying experience.
Yep. And my service advisor at that point in time, his words for me were, it's not my job to sell them things, and I was like, ooh. So when we took a look at that, I bought into the same thing that a lot of other shop owners in general, especially new shop owners, buy into, which was we had bad customers. It was driving bad cars.
These are bottom feeders.
Yeah, these were bottom feeders and all that type of stuff. And what I can tell you is what I've learned over the last 3 years is none of that's accurate. It's just we didn't have an intentional process at the time and an intentional experience that mattered to that customer that we were bringing in the door and matched the type of advertising that we were doing. But again, you can change that by the type of branding and the type of advertising that you do. So, if you want to do community events, but you also have to match it to the team that you have, to the culture that you have, to the strategy that you have. Because if you're not a community-minded individual, then community-based advertising is not genuine and it will not work because people can see through that, right? Servando Orozco is one of our clients at Elite for a long time, and he was a coach with us for a while. He owns 7 shops in Huntington Beach, California area, and he does almost zero call to action marketing, but he is everywhere in Huntington. I mean, everywhere. He's on the Chamber of Commerce. He's on the board at the SPCA. He is at every charity event in town. He is there. He is at every ribbon cutting. I mean, he is everywhere all the time.
Yeah, and that stuff works if you've got the energy and the personality for it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So
cool. Well, hey, man, I think this has been really valuable. I hope that our listeners appreciate it too. Reach out to Matt if you have any questions about what that would look like and potentially getting linked up with Elite to have that spreadsheet that we alluded to. Working through setting your goals, budget, and plan for an entire year, month by month, I think makes a lot more sense rather than just expecting a flat level performance across the course of the full year. So thanks for that, sir.
Yep.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well.
Were your kids well behaved? Is Santa bringing a bag full of coal or?
So we went to Elf on the Shelf brought us some tickets to the Polar Express last week.
Nice.
And so we packed the kids up and drove 6 hours to Cherokee and did the Polar Express. And I was talking to Tom Amaro at Elite yesterday, and he was asking me how our trip was. And I said, well, do you want me to be honest with you, or do you want me to tell you the truth? he said, oh, no, I want you to be honest with you. And I said, you know how sometimes you go places and your kids forget how to act because there's other people around? That was one of those trips for us. So it will not go down as a family trip to remember. So our Elf on the Shelf, his name is Elfie because we're not very creative when it comes to naming things. But so Elfie might be writing a letter to Santa, telling him about what he found on our trip this week. So it's Christmas is to be determined at this point in time.
They're going to need to get to work, kids. Start cleaning up preemptively. All right, dude. Well, I'm sure that I will talk to you again before the new year, but if I don't, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Same to you, Mike.
Yep.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our video today. If you enjoyed this content and you'd like to see some more, you can click right here. And it would be really helpful for me if you thought that this level of mediocrity is something that could help your other friends that were shop owners or in the industry. You can click right here and subscribe. You can even set up notifications if you want. I'd love to have you on the channel.